Good evening and welcome to the Monday, January 11th, 2021 Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting. The board has just come out of a paperwork review. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First items are the review and the approval of consent items. We have an account payroll manifest of January 5th, 2021 in the sum of $1,742,260.48 and January 12th, 2021 in the sum of $167,591.90. We have a payroll manifest of January 7th, 2021 in the sum of $57,012.10. And January 14th, 2021, in the sum of $58,400.28. We have a timber tax in the sum of $3,814.80. And we have 14 land use change taxes in a total sum of $236,390. Are there any items members would like to have removed from consent? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Leary.
Second.
Second by Mr. LaSalle's. All those in favor? Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Pinciero?
He's muted. Hey, Jack.
Okay, I am an aye, so the motion carries 3-0-0. Is there any items members would like to have added to the business this evening? Hearing none, public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 p.m. this evening. The first item of business is the December 28th, 2020 meeting minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review? And if so, are there any comments, changes, edits?
Make a motion to approve them.
We have a motion by Mr. Leary,
Second.
second by Mr. LaSalle's. All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Pinciero.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 4-0-0. The next item is the town clerk tax collector part-time position. Mr. Brown.
Okay, I'll just introduce this. Terry had approached me about a week ago, and her and Amanda were talking about the future staffing of the town clerk tax collector's office, and had asked if they could come in and talk to the Board of Selectmen to share their ideas with you. As you know, we also have a warrant article that's talking about the same matter. So I think, the outcome of this discussion we'll also need to address how we want to proceed with the warrant article. So with that, I'd defer to Terry to introduce.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. So I know that there was a warrant article that was put through for a full-time position in the town clerk tax collector's office. I don't feel that that is really going to benefit the town. I think that the way that we're working now, now that we have Amanda, we are working things through, changing things up a little bit to, do more for the residents. I did give you a list of, what each of us do in the office during the day. I know that Amanda wants to be more involved in the elections, in the training. And with that, we can't just leave one person in the office during those times. And I don't feel that we should be shutting down the office every time there's an election. I think that we have too much business on those days of elections. And I would rather keep the office open for people that, can get there to get their things done on that day. I think that, like I said, the things that we were talking about would be when Amanda was in Manchester, she did some of the searches on the lien properties. So she's going to end up taking over, the leaning process. So she'll be, and it's all listed out here. She'll be sending out the reminder letters. She'll be sending out the delinquent letters. She'll be making payment arrangements with the customers, if they can't make the payment in time. And then also doing the lien notices and going to the post office and, getting all those lien notices out in the mail, the mortgagee searches, she'll start those. We'll also have someone to do them. We had an issue this past in 2020 because of COVID, where we hired a company to do all of our searches. And when I sent all the paperwork off to her, she said that her staff quit and that she couldn't do our searches. So we were kind of left, I said, we have a contract. She says, sorry, I can't help you. So at least this way Amanda can do those. And, that would be one other thing. Just to start off the day, like I listed here, when I come in the morning, I get here usually around 6:30. I do the online registrations. I do the, everything that's online. I do the closeout from the day before. I do the monthly balancing and the financing with Karen, the year-end closeout and all those reports. I do the daily deposit. When the mail comes in, I do anything that comes in the mail for registrations, dogs. I do all of those. The town clerk, tax collector bills that come in, we get billed for vital records. We have to pay them. Those bills that come in, I do those and I submit them to accounts payable so they can pay those. Any supplemental warrants, like all those current use that are coming in. The timber tax, gravel tax, I do those. I'll do the deeding. The election preparations is a shared task between Amanda and I. And then the testing ballots and impact fees, which it's been busy with those lately too. Amanda comes in, she does 8 to 4, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, she stays, she's here 10 to 6, so that we are open to the public 2 evenings, Monday evening and Thursday evenings. And she assists and supervises at the window for any assistance that needs to be there. She does hunting and fishing, OHIV registrations, dog licensing, vital records, marriage licenses. Someone comes in, they want to apply for a marriage license. Takes about an hour. Amanda needs to sit with them for that hour and get those all, get the application done and get everything done for them. She processes the funds from the billing department, police department, recycling, the library, the absentee ballots, election net, leaning. Like I said, she'll be doing the leaning process from beginning to end. So they'll deal directly with Amanda. The part-time position right now is Mondays 10 to 6, Tuesdays and Wednesdays 10 to 3:30, Thursdays and Fridays 8 to 4. And that person, again, assists at the window with anything that needs to be done. They do notary services. They do the mail out of the motor vehicles every month. The registry of deeds stuff. We get each month from all the vets in the state, we get updates. She updates all those in the system so that, when the customer comes in, that their rabies are updated. If we have dogs on the dog list that are not, that have expired rabies, she'll make those phone calls. Usually mid-month, she'll make those phone calls and she'll start telling people that they need to get the rabies updated. So I think that what we're looking for is an additional part-time person to help out 20 hours a week, or when we are at an election or one of us is on vacation, we still have full staff in the office. Either I will be in the office or Amanda will be in the office, but that other stuff, the stuff still needs to get done. If I'm out, Amanda is capable of doing that stuff. If I'm capable. So we cover for each other, but we need someone to still cover the window for that additional time. And Amanda did up some numbers, so I'm going to let her talk to you about her numbers that she did up.
So we went back to 2010 to kind of get the numbers from what we did that year and compare it to what we're doing now with the same amount of hours. And if you look, a lot of the third column is the percentage of increase in the amount. So the whole top section is all dollar amounts. And you can see we chose like, these are the main things that we do: property taxes, land use change tax, which is it's a big one. You know, you can see it has like a 222% increase from all the development in town, which is also future more residents, which will make more, we'll have higher numbers in the future as well. Dog licenses, motor vehicle, boats, hunting, fishing, OHRV, we didn't even have in 2010. We didn't process those. That's a big one that we do now. People from other towns even visit us, because not a lot of like local municipalities will actually be processing those, even some of like the larger towns. And then vital records. And so overall, from 2010 to now, 42% increase. It's a large increase. For the hours that we're asking for at the bottom, we're going from 115 is what we work with Pat and I with the current part-time person. We're proposing an additional 20 hours. It's only a 17.39 increase, for, you know, considering the larger amount of work that we're doing. I also threw in some other numbers that the voters, the amount of voters has obviously increased, you know, over like almost over 1,000 from 2010. And then absentee ballots, obviously there's extenuating circumstances there, but that increased almost 400% from 2012. I chose 2012 because it was a general election, so it makes it a little bit more, you know, comparable. You know, we hope COVID goes away. We don't know if what's going to happen in the future. You know, hopefully we'll never have a general election like we just did with the absentee ballots. But also a lot of people might have done an absentee ballot for the first time this time and want to go that route in the future. So that will probably be something that affects us for years to come. So it does give like just a quick glance at everything that we do more now compared to 10 years ago.
And like I said, I don't think that having a full-time person is going to benefit us. We really need that extra person so that if, you know, one of us are out, that we still have, or both of us are out to work the elections, that we have two people in the office at all times, not just the one person.
And also the situation, if one person's on vacation and somebody else unexpectedly gets sick, that there's not one person left in the office all by themselves all week, and also doing the 2 late days all by themselves.
Okay, great, thank you. You know, I think it's good that you took the time and reassessed it from full-time down to part-time. You looked at what the staffing was and so forth. And from my opinion, going up 42% in 10 years with the same amount of employees, I'd have to default to, you know, your knowledge of running your department and doing such a great job at it that I would definitely say that I think the part-timer is definitely needed. You know, we even thought a full-time at one point was. So I'm in support moving it from full to part-time. Gentlemen, do we have any questions, comments?
A question concerning the marriage license applications. Do you do counseling?
No, Kevin Lynch did that. Kevin Lynch would come in anytime that someone came in for a marriage license. I had to chase him out because he always had to counsel the people getting married, which took an hour and a half. Now that we don't have Kevin in the office, takes an hour.
You know, there is a precedent with respect to this. Robert knows that when the drive-in was going, Mrs. Duvall said that she had the best marriage counseling there was.
I'm sure.
So we'll leave it at that.
Yep.
I'm sure.
We'll expect you to up your game there.
When you're working on the marriage licenses.
It's the history.
So we're trying to, like I say, we're trying to sort things out and make things run better and easier. And I think between the two of us, I really think that things are going to be, you know, they're going to work very well, and everybody's going to have their little things that they do, but there'll be a backup for, you know, I'll do what she does what I do when I'm out. So we're not coming back to, you know, no one doing anything while we're gone.
Oh, it's always great to have cross-training.
Exactly.
You can cover the
Exactly.
department a whole lot better.
Yep.
Now, we have something in front of the budget committee now, making that a full-time position. Is there anything against, I mean, is this something you want to do right now? You're looking to move forward on this right now, or is this like next year, or what is your time frame for?
We're looking to, if, I mean, you know, I know it was in the warrant article to have a full-time person. I figured this was gonna save money, and it's also gonna be more beneficial to the residents and to our staff as well. So if we can do this sooner rather than later, you know, Amanda still has some training that she needs to go off and do. So I'd like to get that stuff done as well and get her certified and, you know, get her stuff done through, you know, through the state as well.
Can we revise the warrant article?
We can. So we can revise the warrant if we choose to. We still have time for that.
What's the budget committee's attitude toward?
Well, they took it out because with the library oil situation, we went over the tax cap. So they pulled that out because they figured it was pretty much even money. And when we put the money back in, they were talking about putting that position back in, or that warrant article. It's been a very tight year as far as the budget committee goes. I don't know where they're gonna go with this. I would like to run it in front of them.
Mhm.
And see how they go. Personally, I don't have a problem with it, but I'd like to run it up the flagpole.
Chairman Weber, may I just make a few comments?
Of course, Mr. Brown.
So when Terry approached me and talked to me about this concept, there was a couple concerns that I had, and that was some of the things that you've just started asking questions about. And I just wanted to point out, whenever you have a warrant article, you can create a situation where no means no. So you always have to be aware of that. And I think that what Terry's presented is, is a well thought out plan that can meet the needs of this department and the citizens now and going into the future. So we just need to be aware that if we leave it out there as a warrant article and it's not approved, then you cannot take any action on a part-time position for a whole year. Second point I wanted to bring up is that we have always tried to maintain that for part-time positions, that the Board of Selectmen have always done that within the budget. We've not gone out and had warrant articles. We have part-time positions that come up throughout the year all the time, and we fund those and approve those. So I'd hate to start a precedent where we start having warrant articles asking for part-time positions with no benefits. I really would like the board not to go there. And then the third point is, comes down to then if we don't have a warrant article to appropriate the additional funding, currently right now in the proposed budget, the budget is funding a part-time employee at 35 hours a week, and then 2 full-timers, Amanda and Terry. So if we were going, the question is, I think we're probably looking at, depending on what the hourly rate would be and everything, you could be looking at somewhere from $10,000 to $13,000 a year for wages and some of the payroll taxes for this part-time position, which is very minimal. And if that's what we wanted to do, then the one recommendation I had for you this evening is that we consider increasing the proposed operating budget to fund this position. And because we've had a position and a promise with the budget committee that we would not exceed the tax cap, and we would have to use some additional funding as a revenue source from the unassigned fund balance to do that. Or maybe we have an agreement with Terry that we pursue this concept but we wait until after March, after the voting has taken place, and see if there's, a way that we can fund this position, but allow some time to go by in the 2021 budget. So looking at maybe bringing someone on board, maybe in May or June, just to reduce the cost a little bit of implementing it. And so those are just some of my thoughts. I just wanted to bring to your attention.
That's the dog's 2 cents.
I've always maintained that any new positions have to go to warrant article to the voters, full or part-time, so that's kind of where I'd have to fall on this to be consistent. I mean, I think it's worthy, but, I mean, that's where I would have to, I just can't make an exception, because they'll rip me apart anyways, but that's, I can deal with that. I think it should be a warrant article personally. Now, whether we switch this warrant article around, but you also have to fund it, which will put us back over the tax cap by what, $5,000?
Yeah, so then we'd have to look at, do we go and attack the dental insurance warrant article?
Yeah, there was
dental and
two
health.
of them that they pulled out, that they didn't support the other night, which was the part-timer. And Troy, what was the other one they didn't support?
It was the creation of that health and dental
Trust
insurance expendable trust fund, and I truly do not believe they did not support it. And so when we got to that point in our meeting, I was going to recommend that we pull it, and we plan to sit down with the library and discuss this matter. But that would free up. I mean, that article was going to use $25,000 from the unassigned fund balance. So this part-time position, whether it's right around $13,000, it would reduce the amount that we're proposing to use in 2021 from the unassigned fund balance.
You mean the full-time position was gonna use the unassigned fund balance?
Well, I don't want to confuse anyone. We basically put together a budget and a bunch of proposed warrant articles.
Yeah.
And adding all those up, we had to reach into the unassigned fund balance to basically make sure we came under the tax cap by $1.
Yes.
Okay. All right, do we need to take any action or?
Well, we have to decide a route we want to go. I mean, we don't have to, when do we have to have warrant articles completed by, Troy?
They need to be posted. It needs to be posted on the 25th of January, Monday, the 25th.
We have to give budget committee, anything we're going to raise and appropriate, we have to give them time to take action on also.
Yeah. But I mean, if this board wants to have it as a warrant article, then I think if that's the wishes of the board, then I think this evening, you could give us direction and just vote to change the purpose of that warrant article from full-time to part-time and update the numbers accordingly.
What do you think, Robert?
I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see this position in there, but changing course at this time might be a little tricky, and we end up with nothing. At about 1,040 hours, it's roughly $12 an hour. You think you'll get somebody for that?
And then I know Troy mentioned if we can hold off until May or June. I don't have a problem with that either. I think we are fine with holding off until May or June and having someone come in like I said, Amanda and I will be there. One of us will be training. I'm not sure how much training they're doing in Concord yet anyway, so they'll basically be training with one of us. But at least we'd have somebody there to cover vacations or,
Yeah.
you know, cover things that are coming up. So, I mean, even if we held off until, you know, hired June 1st or something, that works. I think that would work too.
Vacation season.
I mean, I just, again, I'd just like to reiterate that I hate to start the precedent that for part-time positions with no benefits, that, you know, we have warrant articles. I fully understand being 100% upfront with taxpayers when you create a full-time position with health benefits, New Hampshire state retirement, and all those costs, and those are ongoing costs forever. And the voters have a right to have a say in that. But part-time positions are needed throughout the year, and this board has taken action on taking contracted positions and changing them to part-time without warrant articles, and I'd hate to change that precedent.
And we have done summer hires also for the highway department.
Yeah,
And I just like to think that we could do this within the budget. If Terry's willing to, you know, push this out a little bit, like out into June, then, you know, we don't need to change the operating budget. We can eliminate the warrant article, and you know, we'll find a way to fund this for the remaining of the year.
We had volunteers come in too, you know, during the last, I know the last election is totally different than what we're used to. But if it weren't for the volunteers that came in and helped out, we never would have got caught up.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just out, like I said, I was coming in at
You were
6:30 in the
inundated.
morning and leaving at 5, 6 o'clock at night. And it was almost every day because we couldn't keep up. And then we had volunteers come in and help out, and it made a huge difference with the filing, just the simple things that we just couldn't get to, you know, so it made a big difference with people coming in. So,
Plus Joan helped out too, right?
and Joan did come over and she helped out as well. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that was my other question, is there part-time people that are already working here that could help, that could fill this void somewhat? I just know either way I'm gonna get ripped by the budget.
Yeah, I'm comfortable not bringing it to warrant if we don't have benefits. I mean, we've done so much of that in the past, you know, bring people in for temporary help, part-time help. But I also, you know, we've always tried to bring the positions forward. But they had benefits always tied with it.
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's the board. If this was a part-time position that was going to be eligible for health insurance benefits, then I think that's worthy of a discussion with the board and budget committee, because it's that added benefit. But this is a part-time position with no benefits, and the selectmen have all the authority in the world to hire positions like this.
Another point to make too is weeks like when we have an election or if somebody was out sick, I have to work more than my 40 hours. My overtime is also more costly than potentially part-time
Part-time
filling
person.
in.
So what's the will, gentlemen?
I'd like to run it in front of the budget committee and see what just get their input. I mean, and then decide if we're gonna do something that is gonna cause me more gray hair. But I think it's a worthy position. I really do.
So that's Thursday night, because that's the budget hearing.
That's Thursday night, yeah. I know,
Sounds good to me.
I feel like I know what they're gonna say, but
So what would we do? So at the public hearing, we're going to be looking for input on creating a full-time position from, the budget committee. They need to vote on that. I just think we're creating a time-sensitive crunch. So I mean, that's why I'm sitting here thinking that, the best approach is either amend the warrant article now and put it for part-time or remove it from the warrant. I think you're going to get a lot of frustration from the budget committee. That's what you're going to get, a lot of frustration from the budget committee that we're changing this at the last minute.
Yeah. I mean, we know that the full-time position's not needed, so I think we have to do our due diligence and pull that warrant. Nothing says we can't bring a new one for part-time forward, but I think we pull that one. Because it's not needed.
I'm fine with that.
So pull the current warrant.
Or amend if you're, at the very least, we could amend the warrant so that we're asking for a part-time position, and appropriating the money that's needed for that part-time position. At the very least. Again, I just recommend that we remove the article, period, and the selectmen, recruit this position and hire it in June as a part-time position with no benefits, and do it within your budget. It's not something we have not done in the past. We have done this before.
Yeah, I don't like that route.
I know you don't. So that's why I'm saying, at the very least, there's no sense going forward Thursday night and having this question about a full-time position if we're all sitting here agreeing that a part-time position would be the best. So at the very least, let's at least change that, and so we can have a public hearing on that.
So Troy, what warrant article number is that?
9, I think.
The numbers changed a little bit, but it's article number 6.
6.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to pull warrant article number 6 as written.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Weber, second by Mr. Pinciero. All those in favor, Mr. Larry,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Pinciero.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 4-0-0. So now we're at the part of what we want to do with the part-time position.
I see a fellow budget committee member up there on the board. Maybe she'd like to chime in.
Ms. Forty would like to chime in. She's more than welcome.
Hello, everyone. Obviously, I could not speak for the entire board. I could say from my position, I think what you just did with pulling the full-time position makes sense. If that's not the need, I can see the argument, and in the 3 years that I've been looking at the budgets, that the needs of the town have changed. Certain things have grown, certain things have shrunk. And the Board of Selectmen have always had the power and needed to have the power to change staffing in order to meet the needs of the residents. I know that there are some other people on the budget committee who might feel differently, but you got to weigh everything, all of the factors, and what Town Administrator Brown said about sort of no means no. I just know that this is something that is needed, and I wouldn't want a failed article to then put us in a real bind. I think when positions are on the warrant, it's because there's a new position, there's a new need, or we want to get into something different. It's not about, those normal kind of growing pains that a town like ours would have. And I think that the presentation from Terry and Amanda was very clear. The data is there to support a part-time position. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Do you think it would be wise to put this in front of the committee on Thursday and just get their input before we move forward on this?
And it's really your call. I think it's tough. The timing is tough with the hearing on Thursday. Expecting kind of the language and everything to be the way that it is. Be the way that the voters are going to see it whenever we actually do vote, pending deliberative session. It's a tricky one. It's definitely tricky. I hear where you're coming from, Mr. Leary. I do. I mean, we're having the hearing, and then if there is business that we have to take care of, the budget committee will meet after. So whatever is going to be presented to the public kind of needs to be ready, for us to start at 7.
I think it's a need of the department. I think we should somehow try to work it out and keep it under the tax cap.
I'd like to push it out till June if we could.
Yeah, but not higher until that. So there's a less of an impact to the overall 2021 budget.
And then we'll also know how everybody feels about it.
Yes. So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we postpone our action on this until June, when we have figured things out a little bit more. And we can move forward with it at that point. Get input from other committees and people, and maybe some townspeople.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Leary to postpone decision on this into the June timeframe.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Leary, second by Mr. LaSalle's. All those in favor? Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Pinciero?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 4-0-0. So June, we'll figure it out. Maybe a little time before and give you time to go and post it.
It's worthy. I mean,
It's 100% worthy of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, 42% increase in 10 years,
Well, right.
and staffing hasn't changed.
It hasn't, I don't even know when. I know the part-timer that's there now is the part-timer that was there,
Yep. Back
at the
then,
old town hall, and the other one was part-time too, so
just
it's been the same for quite a while.
with all the land use taxes, we
Well,
know the
right.
town's
How
gonna
many did
keep
you
on,
have today?
the town's gonna keep on growing. So, I mean, right now, we're up 16% in voters, and that's just gonna keep on going. So there's a lot of transactions going through that office.
There
That's
is,
just from 2013. We didn't have the numbers from
Yeah.
2010. So
Yeah, so
exactly.
it's really
Thank
going
you,
up.
ladies.
Thank you so much for all your efforts and for letting us know that a full-time is not warranted and doing your due diligence on that.
Yes,
We greatly appreciate all those efforts.
thank you. Thank you for your time.
Most welcome. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Well, seeing that it is 7:10, I'd like to open it up to public input. Do we have any members of the public that would like to give input this evening?
a lot of people up there.
If so, please state your name and address.
Mr. Chair, there are a few members of the public attending, but they are still muted.
Been muted?
Okay.
If you'd like to address the board, please unmute your line and state your name and address.
All right, I have something real quick. It's Nikki 40 at 85 Page Road. Hello, everyone.
Welcome back.
Yeah, Um, I'll try to make this as quick as possible. Just wanted to bring it to the board's attention. So on my work with the PFAS Commission at the state, something that is going on in town right now is New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services has expanded the area, so the geographical area of wells that they want to test for PFAS and other chemicals and possible contaminants. As we learn more about PFAS and the spread of PFAS, particularly from St. Gobain and the air distribution, it's possible that a wider range of houses could be affected. So some residents in town have started and will start to receive letters from Golder Associates, which is the company that they're kind of contracting with, and it will have an access agreement. So the homeowner can decide whether or not they will grant access for testing of their well. There are some benefits, and I'm trying to get some information together. I've been talking to other towns, namely Bedford, Londonderry, and Merrimack, about why it is advantageous for the town that we get these access agreements and we have the data to see the distribution of PFAS in town. So one of the things that the commission had recommended when we met last Friday was kind of cluing in, the boards of selectmen, town councils of the affected towns to see any willingness, of the Board of Selectmen to kind of get the word out about what these letters are, the different things that people might want to consider, whether or not they want to respond. We would hope that people would respond, either if they're agreeing or not agreeing, just so that we can confirm that the letters are being received. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you know how much further out the radius is going?
We don't know completely right now. I wish I could give you, it's difficult. So the consent decree that was signed, with St. Gobain and the state, it was a 65 square mile kind of plot, right?
Okay.
But because of the air distribution, we're seeing that things are going further and outside of that boundary. The consent decree that was signed states that St. Gobain is only going to take responsibility if it's in excess of 70 parts per trillion outside of that initial 65 square mile radius. So that is something we need to know as well. What is unclear is what homeowners should do if they're exceeding what is now the state standard of 12 parts per trillion of PFOA and PFOS and two other chemicals that are types of PFAS. The state standard is 12 now. When the consent decree was signed, it was 70. So if people are in between, it's not clear right now, and that is something that we are working with the Department of Environmental Services and the Department of Health and Human Services at the state level. But if someone was in excess of 70 and they're even if they're outside that boundary, so outside the area where I think we were initially told was the focus, if they are in excess of 70, they are eligible from what we're being told now, that they would be eligible and have potentially a hookup paid for by St. Gobain. But we need to get the testing results to know for sure. Does that answer your question? Not really. But...
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And also, thank you for staying on top of this. I know a lot of our focus lately has been on the Pennachuck water situation, and it's easy for something to slide to the back burner, but thank you for staying on top of this for the town. It's really appreciated by a lot of people.
Thank you. I'm doing my best.
No, you are.
Do we have any other members of the public that would like to provide input? Okay, hearing none, we'll close public input and move on to the next item of business, which is the Garden Drive right-of-way name, Hale Way. Mr. Brown.
Okay, so we, as you know, we working with Mr. Miller on making improvements to the right-of-way at the end of Garden Drive. And we have concluded that work. The one last piece was naming this private right-of-way. And I've worked with the fire department, worked with Mr. Miller, and the outcome is, with a final recommendation from the fire department, that this right-of-way be named Hale Way. And it's a responsibility of the Board of Selectmen to name these streets and ways.
Okay.
Okay, we just need to make a motion to approve the new name of the road.
Yeah, I'll make a, well, should we wait for Mr. LaSalle's to return? He's gone to the privy. Should we? Oh, we got three of us. here.
Yeah, we should be good.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the naming of the Garden Drive roadway at Hale Way as recommended by the fire department.
We have a motion by Mr. Larry,
Second.
second by Mr. Pinciero. All those in favor, Mr. Larry,
All right,
Mr. Pinciero?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 3-0-0. The next item of business is the 2021 budget. Mr. Brown?
Okay, well, last week, Selectman Larry, myself, Mrs. White, and some department heads, attended the budget committee meeting where they were going through the warrant articles. And one of the things that came up, they met with the library because an issue has come up with health insurance and some other costs that were unanticipated. So the net result was the operating budget to fund these unanticipated costs at the library. The bottom line needed to be increased $7,905. So the budget committee, they did go on record voting to approve this increase. They were fully supporting it. Later in the meeting, they kind of had a discussion about how they typically would really want the Board of Selectmen to weigh in on this first. So, and we agreed that we would bring this back to the Board of Selectmen. So this would trigger, have increasing the proposed operating budget by $7,905. We also would have to amend our revenues, particularly the use of the unassigned fund balance. We would have to increase that amount by $7,905. And then the default budget would also change from $7,346,362 to $7,356,332. So, the cost at the libraries, this is, primarily it's health insurance, dental insurance, and I think an increase in their heating fuel costs. Not much that they can really do about it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
so we're adding $7,900 to the operating budget.
Yes, which would,
And we're going to use more of the unassigned fund balance to pick up some of the difference.
right. And then I think later this evening, we'll be talking about a warrant article that is proposing to use unassigned fund balance. It's not supported by the budget committee. So, depending on the Board of Selectmen's vote, the use of the unassigned fund balance would actually go down when we get to that point in the meeting.
Okay.
Point of clarification, Troy, amended revenues from 2.718160 to 2.726065. That's about a $9,000 increase, $8,000 increase. But you have assigned of 65,776. Because
Isn't that already, that's just added on to what we already approved, to use the standard, the.
we did 85,000.
1,860.
Budget back
Did we do
under.
85?
I don't know. I got the difference. I got the difference at 7,905.
All right, this,
But how much were we using before in the unassigned fund balance to get under the tax cap?
It would be 65,776. Take away 7,905. We were at 57,871. That's what we were going to use to be under the tax cap.
if you're looking at this, that doesn't add up on those numbers there, amended revenues. Am I missing something?
So we already had revenues using the unassigned fund balance at 27,18,160. And by changing it to $2,726,065, it increased what we were going to use from the unassigned fund balance by 7,000 and change to now it's going to be 65,776. I think is what Troy's trying to show there. Is that correct?
Yeah. So a week ago, we were going to use $57,871 from the unassigned fund balance to meet the tax cap. Now the library's come forward and said they need an additional $7,905. So that would increase the amount we're going to use from 57,871 to 65,776.
Okay.
And again, if the article about creating that health and dental insurance trust fund, if that goes away, this 65,776 would be reduced by the $25,000 that we were going to use to fund that expendable trust fund.
And also the part-time position would be another 8,000, right? 8,700?
Well, there you go. I forgot about that. Yes.
Is there any money in the library budget that could be used at the end of this year?
Not for benefits. I don't know what their ending balance is going to be, but they would not be able to use 2020 funds to fund benefit costs in 2021.
Okay. Do you need any motion or any action from us? Or do you want to wait?
think that what I need from you is a vote to amend the operating budget, to increase the operating budget by $7,905 and adjust the revenues using unassigned fund balance to maintain the tax cap.
Okay.
So you want a motion that we approve the operating budget, the revenues, and the default budget as shown here, correct?
That would be a great motion. If you're in agreement with this, with the library's increase, then that would be a great motion.
You have to be.
So move.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Larry.
I was waiting for Jack.
All those in favor, Mr. Larry.
Sleep.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Pinciero.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 4-0-0.
Okay.
Next item is the 2021 warrant. Mr. Brown.
Is you guys all have access to the warrant?
Yeah.
Let me just see if I can share. Chrome tab. Warrant share.
There it is.
That's sharing.
It is.
Okay, I have been working with Terry on, I'm not going to go through these because she's still working on the listing of election, about the list of offices that would be open this year. But let's go down. We'll update the operating budget. We'll talk about that later. Police contract, town clerk. So article number 6 would be removed. It was not recommended by the budget committee, but just so everyone's aware, it was not recommended by the budget committee at this time because they had to address the library request, and so they couldn't meet the tax cap, so they chose not to support this article. Article number 8 was, I just want to bring this to your attention. One of the budget committee members we had a discussion about the use of unassigned fund balance and just questions and concerns about the standard language that we use could be misleading to the taxpayer. And it was suggested that maybe we add the word new taxation to the articles, all the articles that are using the unassigned fund balance. And Selectman Leary and I consulted with legal counsel, and they didn't see any problem whatsoever with inserting the word new in front of taxation. The intent here is to make sure taxpayers know that this money that we're proposing to use, most likely they've been taxed on it already. If you remember, the unassigned fund balance grows from unspent funds and the collection of unanticipated revenues. So unanticipated revenues, people are not taxed for, but pretty much the fund is supported by unspent
Taxation.
unspent taxes. So Article 8, we've inserted the word new. Under the plow truck purchase, we've inserted the word new. And under the property revaluation expendable trust fund, we've inserted the word new. Article 11 is the health and dental care expendable trust fund. This is not supported by the budget committee. It was an interesting conversation. Obviously, you can see the vote was tight. I think the general concern here with the people who did not support this article, they didn't come out and say it, but from the questions they were asking, I think they were questioning whether or not this was truly needed. And a lot of the questions based on, past experiences and how have we been able to make up for these unanticipated costs. And, the town, on the town side, it has usually when we have a change in a position, some examples can be that we have a person retire or they leave and there's a vacancy in the position for a period of time. And that can help, that savings and salary can help make up for the added cost of health or dental plans. But typically we've been able to make adjustments on the town side. Our budget's larger. It becomes a problem with the library side. And of course, we have that MOU, which can be terminated at any time. But the MOU between the selectmen and the library trustees is that if something like this were to occur after the budget has passed, the selectmen would work with the library trustees to help fund the unanticipated town portion, library portion of the cost of premium cost for health and dental care. But I'll be honest with you, at this point in time, and the amount of money we're using from the unassigned fund balance, the lack of support from the budget committee, this article might be a good article to go away this year, where we're not, it's kind of an unusual year anyhow with virtual meetings and COVID. It's worthy of having a discussion on whether or not we want to keep this article on the warrant or not this year.
And then the language in the MOU also says that we would assist. It never says that the selectmen will take on the complete cost, correct?
After I read it, it does indicate that, it's not there's no word shall in there. It's, if the library trustees can demonstrate they can't do something in their budget, that the selectmen would work with them. I just think that we need to decide if we want this article to be on the warrant. If it's not, then we need to have a conversation with the library trustees to talk about how we're going to proceed forward.
Gentlemen, thoughts?
I say we pull it out.
I
If we don't have,
I tend to agree also.
if we don't have the budget committee support, I doubt it'll pass the,
And I think that we as a board need to go back and look at that MOU with the library and come up with a way of getting it in their budget, because I think it all should, everybody should reside in their own budget.
Yep.
And I understand that, things change throughout the year, but they also change in the town side also.
correct.
That we have to find a way within our budget in order to, make it work.
Maybe it's something they add to their budget down the road.
I make a motion, we pull Article 11.
We have a motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
Second.
second by Mr. Pinciero. All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Pinciero?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 4-0-0.
Why did I do that?
You're not sharing any longer.
Sorry about that.
Caring is caring.
Can't keep all the fun to yourself.
I know.
Your focus is out.
Hold on. All right, so that was the Article 11. There was obviously, Article 12 is more of a straightforward kind of housekeeping and supported by the Budget Committee, fully supported by Budget Committee. The Fire Facilities Fund and the solar exemption, since it's not really raising and appropriating any money, the Budget Committee is not required to provide a recommendation. So based on, the board's action this evening, I'll remove two articles, the question asking about the full-time clerk and the question about creating the expendable trust fund. And I will update the budget documents to reflect those changes.
Okay, thank you. The next item is deliberative session, date and location. Mr. Brown.
I think you all received an email correspondence that went out. Last week, we had a meeting with the town moderator, the town clerk, Chairman Weber, some department heads that have a role in our public safety department heads, and school officials. And also we had Chairman Cutter from the Budget Committee on. So the whole purpose of the meeting was to talk about how we were going to coordinate the public hearings with our community television staff and our IT department. The public hearing that's occurring this coming Thursday, and then the upcoming deliberative session, and then having discussions about the election in March. So the outcome of that meeting is that we all agreed that the public hearing this Thursday would be 100% virtual, and that is going to be conducted by the Budget Committee. That legal notice has gone out and scheduled for this coming Thursday. That starts at 7 o'clock. Deliberative session, since of the safety protocols that we need to put in place and the equipment that's required for setup, it was recommended that we look at trying to consolidate the two deliberative sessions into one. And the only date that would work for the school's legal counsel was February the 6th. This board has, voted to have our deliberative session on the last Saturday of the month, January 30th. So we just need to agree that we would move our deliberative session to February 6th. we can have our legal counsel available on the 6th. Laura Spector Morgan would not be available, but they have other attorneys that can attend. And for the most part, if you take a look at our warrant, there's not a lot of complicated questions this year. So unless we receive some complicated petition articles, it should be a pretty straightforward deliberative session. Now, the only thing I raise a question here, we didn't talk about it at our joint meeting, but I kind of thought about this after the fact. We typically will start deliberative session at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't know if there's interest in looking at maybe starting at 9 in hopes that after we adjourn, there would be a transition from town to school because we're going to have to, disinfect the facility. And then that would maybe provide an opportunity for the school to start before noontime. And maybe this all could transpire sometime between 9 and say 1 o'clock, maybe sooner.
Certainly sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I think the joint is the best way to go for the town, for everybody set up, for the PPE required and so forth. Based on feedback we just got from LCTV, they would like 10 o'clock.
They would like 10. Okay, I've not consulted with LCTV.
They will work with 9, but 10 is better because they probably have 2 hours worth of setup before.
Okay, so that eliminates that discussion. That's good.
Yeah, so I think 10 would be great in order to accommodate for them. It'd be my personal opinion.
Where is it going to be held?
Oh, I'm sorry. One of the most important discussion would be the high school gymnasium.
We figured we can get people separated better when we had the call that day.
And we have a precedent because the school held a meeting in the gym and it worked fine.
Yeah, and much more people just went to that than normally goes to deliberative. Deliberative, we usually don't get that much of a turnout. So the discussion on the phone call was that maybe even putting people on the floor in chairs, separating chairs in groups of 2 or whatever the number would be, you could really space people out even more than up on the bleachers themselves.
And then it's a little too early for discussion, but I'm sure this same group will get together very soon again. And we're going to continue to monitor some proposed state bills that talking about, the March election. So if we have an in-person deliberative session, then we decided to hold off, but continue to monitor what approach we want to take about the March election, whether we do in-person voting traditionally like we always do, that we look at doing a drive-through voting, which was, for a lot of various reasons, was not really something that the people that are involved in setting up the election and running it, they weren't really interested in pursuing that. There's going to be a lot more work, a lot of chances for making mistakes. So, but we don't know what the virus is going to be doing in March. There's also some state laws that are being discussed that would allow it would allow the governing body, being the Board of Selectmen, in consultation with the moderator and town clerk, if that bill's passed, it could allow us to postpone town meeting until sometime later in the spring, April, May, June. I think the last month would be July. But at this point in time, we're just holding on a wait and see approach for the March.
Presently, the only action is the moderator can push 72 hours at a time, correct?
That's correct.
Troy, I have a question for you. From a spending standpoint, if we pushed out the municipal election until, let's say, June, what would, from an accounting standpoint, how would that impact?
So I think what we would do is, the biggest thing that would hit us would be making the decision on paving. that would be a big cost item where that article about the $100,000 additional paving money, we would all be uncomfortable authorizing paving to proceed without knowing whether or not those funds are appropriated. Otherwise, I think that, we'd have to work with our department heads again and conduct business like we do traditionally from January to March, where we just spend the funds that it takes to operate our departments. We don't go out and purchase police cruisers. We don't go out and buy, it would just be the basic needs of the departments.
But you're saying that it would be possible for the town to push it out until June, and you'd still be able to operate.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, because that's a big concern of mine. The school, not so much, because the school's on a different fiscal year. But we're sort of operating, even right now, we're operating on borrowed money, so to speak.
So I believe the school's what, July to July? Well,
July
July
1st,
to
yeah.
June 30th.
Yeah. But if you push it out to June, that's 5 months. But
Well, Senate Bill 2 got tabled, right? At your last meeting?
Well, I think it's the House Bill 1129. Or is it?
Thought it was SB 2, but
Well, that was, okay.
it's up in the air.
It's up in the air. It's in the House's hand right now. I think the House was just waiting, I think, to have more public input before voting on it.
I believe that's the article I read.
So
too.
if you were to give me a recommendation, what would you recommend?
I would recommend that you take action, the House take action on that ASAP, because for planning purposes, we need to know that the moderator and the town clerk and the selectmen can take that action now, because it's a time sensitive issue. It's the posting of the warrant, everything.
Yeah.
And it's not even feasible to expect the moderator to postpone the town meeting every 72 hours. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
And I think the voters would really appreciate it, because we don't know where we're going to be in March. The real concern here is, that new strand of variant that's out there. And I just think a few more months allows the vaccinations to proceed. It gets us through the winter months. It gets us, to May, when people are outside more. It just provides so much more flexibility.
Okay.
Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but
And I want to say too that, as long as we can pull off the election in March safely, there is, like the town clerk advised me, we just did a presidential election, and guess what? Everyone took full advantage of absentee voting, and you can still do absentee voting in March. So that's why we're kind of a wait and see action. But knowing that bill is passed, it just provides us with some relief, knowing that we can postpone the meeting if we need to. Right now, we don't know if we're going to have that ability.
Okay.
It's a good idea what zero budgeting would be, though, wouldn't it, for at least a half a year?
you might have to.
It's tough. It's like I said, we're going to continue to operate our departments but the questions will come up about certain equipment that we were looking to purchase, and there will be some things that will come up saying, you know, and that would come back to the Board of Selectmen saying, are you willing to authorize police chief or fire chief to purchase X? But we would be, you know, coming to you and having that discussion. The big thing that happens between, you know, the first big purchase that we do and financial commitment is our paving program. So unfortunately, that would be put on hold, at least, you know, $100,000 of it.
Okay, thank you. Next item is the COVID-19 paid leave status. Mr. Brown.
So the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, you know, this was a federal law that was implemented sort of with the family medical leave, and it provided employees with paid sick leave and expanded family medical leave benefits during the COVID crisis. This granted all employees paid 80 hours of paid time for any of these COVID-related issues. That expired on December 31st, 2020. I don't know, it expired. I haven't heard any discussion about it coming back, but we're in a position now where we need to know from the Board of Selectmen what your approach will be if we have employees that come down with COVID or test positive for COVID or have a exposure where they're required to be quarantined. And I recommend that we take this in small steps. I think that we obviously do not want our employees to, you know, we want them to be honest right up front with us. We don't want them coming near our workplace. And I think that employees should be entitled to the same benefit in 2021 that employees were entitled to in 2020. So what I'm asking for is not the full benefit that was in effect in 2020. That got into, you know, providing childcare, schooling, and some other family medical leave type issues. What I'm looking for is to see if the board would support paying 80 hours of paid leave for full-time employees who are required to quarantine if they test positive for COVID or have an exposure. And that our regular scheduled part-time employees would be entitled to the same benefit, but it would be prorated. And that we do this for January, February, and March. And as we get towards the end of March, we have another discussion about this.
Why is there no wording pertaining to a doctor's note or some type of notification to the town that the individual has contacted this virus? I don't see anything in there that says that.
We can put that in there. They have you can put that in. I don't have a problem with that. With you know, with documentation, you know, a positive who are required to quarantine for positive documentation of COVID test or exposure.
Well, oh yeah, okay, you can have it as long as all of that is in it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Probably would want documented exposure.
Yes.
Yeah, you would definitely want to document.
Now, where they say they can't receive it twice, would that include the people that received it this past year?
So I was thinking of someone like me, who, you know, I received my 80 hours of paid benefit, and I just don't want to open the door up for someone like me that now in 2021 I become eligible for another 80 hours.
Wonder what did the original FFCRA say? Do you know?
It was up to 80 hours.
Up to 80.
Yeah.
But the other thing you don't want is you don't want someone who may have got this benefit last year to come in because, you know, they're not going to be paid to be out of work, so they're going to come to work
So they
and
will
just
take
not
the
tell
risk.
anybody.
Yep.
So that's a tricky one.
That's
When
that's
we
a
look at this,
possibility too.
What's that, Jack?
I said, I would think that would be a pretty good possibility that someone may do that.
Hmm.
I wouldn't want to take the chance on that.
but from the utilization of last year, we probably had under 5 employees use this?
Yeah. And you know, I think something just came out today. Um, for people who, with a time frame of people who are quarantined or have been vaccinated and then have an exposure within a certain time frame, and I haven't reviewed that, but so this what we're discussing right now is this guidance that has actually probably come out or will be coming out about people like me who have, you know, I had COVID in
Yep.
2020, and you know I could be exposed to it again, and whether or not I'm required to quarantine again.
Yeah, I think if we put documented in there and for the safety of our employees, I mean, I think we leave it at that. And if somebody wants to play that game,
You know,
think,
if I was able to get this in place for now, our next meeting,
yeah, I mean,
I think I can bring back, you know, the other scenario we're talking about. Because I think it's a very good point. You know, even though I had COVID, but I have another documented exposure, what does that mean?
It makes you eligible for this if in fact it happened here. Why
Am I, you know, I have to research that a little bit more.
80 hours? If this happened to you a second time, then I can't see why the 80 hours wouldn't move again to 2021.
yeah, I mean, for the safety of our employees, I don't think we should have to be concerned about
I
something.
agree with it.
Time.
Should we put a safety net in there to say that upon approval or something like that?
Documented and
And
department head approval.
You mean people coming in for the second time around?
I mean, yeah, for the second time around, Jack. Because as this is stated, you're not eligible for it a second time.
I think what we could do is
To change
change that last sentence so that it stops. It just says regular scheduled part-time employees shall be prorated, period.
Yep.
And not say, and employees who already received this benefit shall not be eligible.
Mhm.
We can remove that portion
Mhm.
until I've had time to research more on what we do about a repeated exposure or positive test.
And
What sort of guidance have we received with respect to people who have been vaccinated?
Well, I believe that that guidance. I saw something today. I haven't had a chance to read through it, but I believe there's guidance out there now.
Okay.
the other thing is you don't want somebody to abuse it either. Once a month say, oh, I was exposed. Then
Yeah.
we have to think about cutting ties, so.
Why don't you rewrite it and bring it back to the board?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
If you know if we have something that occurs between now and our next meeting, I'm you know department heads and I will I'm sure we'll take the appropriate action.
Well, you know where the board stands, so
Right.
you should be able to make a decision.
Yeah.
I would trust your.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, next item is the Pennachuck water rate increase. Mr. Brown.
All right, this is a follow-up from our last meeting, and the community informational discussion that Selectman LaSalle had hosted. I have been in discussion with the town of Londonderry about sharing legal counsel, having representation for this rate increase, and Londonderry has literally taken a lead role on this and has reached out to all of the communities that are served by Pennachuck East, and they did that late Friday afternoon. And we're still getting, you know, obviously a lot of the towns, they need to meet with their town council or their board of selectmen before they can commit to joining this effort. So as of right now, Londonderry they are going to proceed forward, and they have legal counsel that they believe is well suited to represent the towns in this matter. The town, I indicated via email that Litchfield is definitely interested, and that I'd be talking to our board tonight. And the town of Pelham, they'll be that town manager will discuss this with their board of selectmen, and that's the only activity I saw or aware of. Obviously, the time is of the essence here. The deadline for filing for intervenor status is January the 22nd. The pre-hearing conference is January 27th. And then we'll have, on the January 27th, after that hearing, they have a technical session to review the petition. So, I've shared with you some of the comments that were shared to me by Londonderry. And the legal counsel there, they recommended that there's a benefit to having the intervenor filed with all of the communities that want to participate, so that we don't have different facts and different arguments submitted. That it's done in a unified approach. The law firm that Londonderry is using is Shaheen, Finney, Bass, and Green. And again, like I said, their general counsel had recommended that they have staff within their firm that can specialize and handle this matter. So with that being said, I really think this is the way to go. I also have spoke to legal counsel that this town has used as special counsel throughout the St. Gobain process. And I have them scheduled after we adjourn this meeting. They're going to be calling in and talking to you to share their comments about what role, if any, they could play as an independent legal counsel. Just sort of if you need to have a step back and get a second opinion, or have a little sounding board, because when you enter these types of things and you have shared legal counsel, sometimes you might need to consult outside of that, just to make sure you are making the right decisions.
And I agree with that, Troy, because communities that are on this list weren't equally affected or impacted by the PFOA St. Gobain thing. And there may be questions that come up with respect to this rate request that are also impacted by the PFOA. For instance, has Pennachuck received funding from St. Gobain for all the extra lines that they had to put in? Or are the ratepayers footing that bill? The fact that they put in all these extra lines, then there's extra fire hydrants, and the Litchfield taxpayers are having to pay for that. So I think it would be good, because we know that we're impacted by the PFOA crisis. A lot of the other communities are impacted a lot less. So we may have to have double duty there with respect to PFOAs.
I agree with you, and I think our conversation we have later tonight, some of that will come up.
Thank you. Next item is Snowdrop Lane and Lilac Court limbs. Mr. Brown.
Yeah. Well, before we jump forward, what is the board's thoughts on joining forces with the town of Londonderry and hopefully other communities using the same law firm, Shaheen, Finney, Bass, and Green.
I support it 100%.
I'm good with it.
I think I do too, as long as we're able to participate, that there's an equitable cost sharing.
Mhm.
You know, and, you know, I would hope that at least Pelham would join us because they have a lot of customers in Pennachuck also. I don't know about some of these others, but,
But it'd be very nice to have us, Londonderry, and Pelham together.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because between the three of us, I would say that would make up the majority of Pennachuck East customer base.
Yeah, you're probably looking at what, 6,000 homes at that point, because we're what, 28 and change, I think. Pelham, where they said was just over 2,000, and then Londonderry right behind that.
Yeah, I don't remember, but
Okay, good. I will
Jack, what do you think?
make contact with Town Manager Smith tomorrow, let him know that,
Hear from Jack yet?
that we're in, and we'll hopefully more communities will join.
You good with that, Jack?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, next item is Snowdrop Lane and Lilac Court limbs. Mr. Brown.
Okay, so before Christmas, we had talked about this, and at that point in time, the board was in agreement that we would send a letter to everyone that lived on Lilac Court and Snowdrop Lane. The concern here was that we received complaints from the U.S. Postal Service. I've actually received complaints from our highway department and some private citizens about the limbs, the tree limbs that are growing and hanging over the traveled roadway down there. I've gone down myself, looked at it, and they are in fact hanging over. The trees themselves probably shouldn't have been planted as close to the road as they were. But now's the time. We've given the homeowners an opportunity to go out there and prune their trees. I think a couple did, but for the most part, nobody did anything. So this would be the time of the year to do it because there's no leaves on the limbs, and it's a lot easier to go down there and you can visually see, how far we should be cutting back. We would not be doing an aggressive trim. Just going down there and making sure the limbs are not hanging over the road. So I'm thinking that from my drive-by inspection, it looked like it's, would be 3 to 4 feet of pruning back. We're not cutting any trees. It would just be pruning of the limbs.
I think
Make
we
sure
should
he
go
cuts.
back to
cuts it
the
back.
contractor that built those homes. He was told when we accepted that road that in fact those trees were a problem. He said if in fact they are, he would pay to have them taken care of. So I think we need to look into that.
Do we know who the builder was?
I do not know.
Joni McGibbon has his name. Or it's in the file for when we accepted that road.
Mhm.
Can't hurt to ask.
No. The other thing is make sure we trim them back far enough so we're not addressing this again in another year or so.
You will be.
Limbs will go quick.
Yep.
And are these trees actually on the town right of way or are they?
Most certainly.
They're in the town right away.
No question. No question about it.
do they serve any function?
Nope.
Well,
Not enough for shade.
I've driven down the street and if I was the property owner, I don't think I'd want the trees removed. I think it adds a nice feeling going down those two streets. Unfortunately, they should never have been planted that close to the road because of this problem. And unless the trees are removed, yes, we're going to continue to have this problem.
Yep.
There's no doubt.
No,
But
sure. I think
but they are aesthetic. You know, they are. It's a nice looking street, nice looking property down there, and so it's a difficult situation.
that's why I'm saying if you contact this builder, tell him the issue, and if he wants to move the trees, he at his expense, then give him the opportunity to do that or plant new. But they should come out of that right away. They've been an issue from the start.
Okay.
Or the town can trim them and send them the bill.
Exactly.
All right, Mr. Brown, you're going to investigate that for us
I'll
and
investigate that a little
bring us up
further.
at the next meeting?
Okay.
Thank you. We had no items removed from consent, so next would be the administrator's report.
He's pretty well done.
I just wanted to give you an update on a couple of things. So I think you're all aware, we did get the advertisement out for the building inspector position, and I am starting to receive some activity. So we encouraged people to submit their application. I believe it was by this coming Friday. But I also left the language as the position would be open until filled. So with, encouraging people to apply by the 15th. I also was pleased to announce that during the first snowstorm that we had of the year back in 2020, the new plow truck that was authorized in March, halfway through the storm, one of our hydraulic pumps on the plow broke. And so we called out to Donovan and Spring over in Londonderry and see if they had a pump. And they informed us that they did not have a pump, but our brand new plow truck was ready to be delivered. So we were able to go out in the middle of the storm and drop one truck off and pick up the new one. And Road Agent Brown is very, very pleased with the performance of the truck. I've been down, I've inspected it. It looks like a really good setup. So if you get a chance, you want to see what the mid-sized truck is with a front plow and a wing. Swing by and you'll see what we're talking about. And it really is doing a good job. It's done exactly what he thought it would to do. So this is the same exact truck that we have on the warrant. We plan on, if it's approved, we want to purchase the same exact truck with the same setup. And then, as we heard earlier this evening, with St. Gobain working with the Department of Environmental Services, expanding the testing area, I wanted to inform the board that I did receive certified mail where we have property, the town has property, there's some conservation land and just town property where they're looking to have access agreements signed by the town. They're really looking for property that has wells. They don't know if, they've just sent out these letters to all the property owners, hoping that they have wells that they can come in and collect a sample. But in the past, the town has responded to those letters, and we've allowed them to go on our property and collect water samples. And I just wanted to make sure the board's still in agreement that I can sign those documents and allow that.
I don't see any reason why not.
I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. So
Yeah, no problem with that. Troy, going back to what you were just speaking about, the building inspector and the plow truck, how long has the building inspector position been posted? Have we posted it for a few weeks?
I was posted it for, it's been a week. It'll be a week and a half at least on the 15th.
Yeah, I would keep it out for a couple of weeks.
Oh, I would. And also this is obviously building activity in our town with the Weatherstone development and Firefly, and other people are still working on additions and garages. and new houses.
Well, that's a-
But right now, so far, from the feedback I'm receiving, the contract that we have with Municipal Resources Incorporated, having Peter Rowell here 3 days a week, it's working. In fact, he's not working a full 8-hour day. So he's doing the inspections he needs to do. Obviously, because he was able to work in this town about a year and a half ago, he's familiar with the town, and he's familiar with some of the building projects going on. So that transition has gone well so far.
Okay, and what about the record keeping? Are we able to keep up with record keeping or?
We're the one thing that we're probably need a little bit more assistance on is operating the software that was purchased, and so that is we're issuing permits through the software, but I don't think we're fully using the software 100% just due to the lack of training.
Yeah, okay. And the other thing on the plow truck, so we have one, we got the new one in and you took one over there. What's the status on getting our drivers, the town drivers, their CDLs? I know there's one that's missing, one that is supposed to have one. Should have had it last year.
Yeah, they that's a matter that I probably need to talk to you in non-public about.
Okay,
Troy, we continue to have issues, and I'd like your honest opinion about this, but with respect to plowing cul-de-sacs, whether they plow into the cul-de-sacs or have we always been plowing the cul-de-sacs the same? Because occasionally, and I've had complaints this year even that they're plowing around the cul-de-sacs and they're pushing the snow into people's driveways. Are you satisfied that everybody's doing the right thing here with respect to cul-de-sacs?
Well, I'm aware of the complaints. I see them on social media, and I receive physical voice calls and emails. And I've talked to Road Agent Brown about it. And what the one thing that we're up against, the challenge is it depends on every cul-de-sac's a little different, and the piece of equipment that might be on that plow route could be different. So, we're doing our best. Road Agent Brown is talking with everyone and trying to make sure that when we go into a cul-de-sac, that we try to push into the middle of the cul-de-sac first. Our first pass, we push in, and then we push out. So that the person that is at the end of a cul-de-sac is not receiving 30 feet width of road, receiving all of that snow. So it would just be like those homeowners should be receiving the same amount of snow that they do for any taxpayer that lives on a street that's straight. When the plow truck comes down the road, you get half the snow in your driveway. And that's our goal. But like I said, limitations to the trucks. If I have a big truck or a front end loader that comes down a cul-de-sac with the wing and everything, there's a different way or technique used plowing that cul-de-sac. Whereas some of these, you come in there with a 1-ton or a pickup truck, it's a different animal. So we're going to get there, and hopefully when we get this next plow truck approved, we're going to start seeing that we're going to have a fleet with plows that can turn. They're not fixed mounted front plows. They can actually turn them in different directions, and they have wings.
Okay. Yeah,
So I'm not gonna sit there and tell you that we're, from what I'm hearing is that we're doing our best, but there's limitations to what we can do based on the equipment, and every cul-de-sac's a little different.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Troy.
Anything else, Mr. Brown?
That's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Next is Selectmen reports. Mr. Leary.
Budget committee, hopefully, we have the hearing on Thursday, and then it's off to deliberative. On another note, I have been in contact with the EPA over the painting at the Old Town Hall. I sent some emails out, and I'm getting some info back on what we need to do to stay within guidelines. There are certain guidelines that we do have to follow. The big caveat is that there are no children in the building, so certain lead regulations are not necessary, but there are still some that we have to follow. We're trying to get all that lined up so that come springtime and we can get going on this for the town. Other than that, I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. LaSalle's.
Yeah, nothing too big to report, other than we do have a Heritage Commission meeting. I think it's tomorrow night. The virtual meeting, and yes, it's tomorrow night.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pinziero.
Nope, I have nothing for you.
Okay, thank you. And I have nothing to report on the Recreation Commission. We have a meeting tomorrow evening. Will be added. Seeing we had no other business added, the next meeting will be Monday, January 25th. And we do have one other item this evening. It's a non-meeting with legal counsel. We thank everybody for tuning in, and I wish you all well.
I'll be signing off. I'm not going to be in that non-public.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening, Jack.
Yep, thank you.
Talk to you later, buddy.
We're gonna sue you, Jack.
Thank you. I'm leaving that person to you in my will.